Hey guys, Adam Dupes here, and welcome to another episode of On the Couch Rewind. So today, in anticipation for X-Men Days of Future Past, I will be talking about the movie that started it all, X-Men. So as all of you know what the story is, which is basically Professor Xavier and his band of mutants must help protect the humanity who hate and fear them because they're different, from the evil of Magneto and his Brotherhood of Mutants. It's as simple as that as it is. Now, let me just say, I love this movie. I actually also happen to be a huge fan of the series, because this is one of those, X-Men is one of those franchises, whether it's comic book, TV show, movies, whatever, that kind of hits home for me, especially for someone who was born differently. Someone who was picked on because people didn't understand where I came from, who I was. And so knowing that, watching these movies, I have an immediate connection with all the characters. With that said, does this movie hold up? Cinematically, yes. It does. Especially with, if I had to say, does it hold relevance even today, besides it being a comic book movie? Yeah, it does, especially politically. When X-Men was first published in the 60s, it was they were metaphors for racism. Today, it could be a metaphor for anything, and not just racism. It could be for homosexuality. In my case, someone who hasn't learned it, who is socially awkward. Really, anything. Plus, it's also about teenagers. People who grow up differently and, just don't feel like they belong. With that said, this movie, while I wouldn't say I'd be lying if I said it hasn't aged well, but there are things about it that haven't exactly, compared to today, haven't exactly aged well. Like, for instance, some of the special effects. While still impressive, they don't look as great. Which is understandable. Also, some of the fight choreography, not as great. It does feel like it's a little choppy, a little slow. Especially when they start jumping, it definitely feels like they're being lifted from a wire. I'm not saying that they should have been CGI. All I'm saying is they're capable of doing something much. They're capable of doing more with wire works these days. Also, all right. So with that out of the way, let me get to characters and performances. First off, Sir Patrick Stewart and Sir Ian McKellen as Professor X and Magneto, respectively. There is no way you can replace these actors, and in terms of them being the older versions, because hence X-Men First Class is a different case, but these guys nailed those performances. They are Professor Xavier and Magneto. There is really no better choices for those roles. And the fact that every fan has said Patrick Stewart was to be Professor Xavier before he was even cast says it all. That Fox at that time were listening. Was saying, hey, let's get Professor Xavier, because we know fans because we know fans want him. He nailed it. And the fact that these two are good friends, are the best of friends, actually. If you look at like some of the posts they put on Facebook and Twitter and whatnot, these guys are inseparable. These guys have the time of their lives, and which makes their performances as, I hate using this word, frenemies, even more believable, because you can tell that these two were best friends. These guys could not be separated. That they cared for one another, but their ideology separated them, and so they're having to fight each other, even though they really don't even want to. Even Magneto doesn't want to fight Xavier, but he knows he has to, and that the two of them still respect each other. And I'll get into that with some of the later movies. Famke Janssen as Jean Grey, not a bad choice. She nails it. Granted, I'm not going to go on to later movies, but I wish she had more to do in this, actually, besides being stuck in the love triangle. But I mean, that's pretty much it. Anna Paquin as Rogue. Basically, she's in kind of an amalgamation of, while making it her own, while still being Rogue, she's kind of an amalgamation of Rogue and Jubilee in a way, especially with the father-daughter kind of relationship between her and Wolverine is very much like Jubilee and Kitty Pryde, which is kind of weird considering Jubilee makes a cameo in this movie. But Anna Paquin does a really good job showcasing the eyes of being introduced to the world of the X-Men as a teenager, someone who had just first developed her powers as an adolescent, which again for the artsy people is kind of a metaphor for puberty. I'll try not to be like one of those guys. But yeah, she's the teenager's doorway into the world of the X-Men. Rebecca Romijn is, while she hardly has any lines as Mystique, she kicks ass. She's basically there to be the model of the movie, but she definitely utilizes that fairly well by making herself look really intimidating, which is very well done. Ray Park as Toad, I enjoy him, most because he's a really good martial artist. Tyler Mane as Sabretooth. Yeah, I understand they picked him because he's huge. But again, Sabretooth, and while they don't really utilize him that well, and I understand why, the fact that he's still intimidating is great. To me, he is Sabretooth. I mean, granted, you can pick any other wrestler these days to play Sabretooth, but to me, he is Sabretooth. Michael Madsen, sorry, I don't know why I said Michael Madsen. James Marsden as Cyclops is a good choice. It really is. He definitely plays that stiff leader, the one who, basically the Boy Scout of the group. He doesn't take shit from anybody, but at the same time, which kind of makes him come off as a dick, but at the same time, he's also very underutilized. Basically to make way for really the main star of this movie, which is Wolverine, but that's just because he's the most marketable. Not saying, and that's not a bad thing, because Hugh Jackman, like I said about some of the others, Hugh Jackman is Wolverine. He has, and it doesn't look like anyone can possibly replace him anytime soon as the years have gone by. He is Wolverine. Yeah, okay, he's tall. We get it. The fact that Hugh Jackman's original background is that in musicals, whatever. He's still a good actor. He's a great actor. He knows how to be a good actor. He has range. The fact that he's in this proves it, that he has range. And yes, there are people who still think he's a terrible Wolverine, but that's just mostly because he's too tall. Ooh, no. This Wolverine is a fucking badass. He is. He don't take shit from nobody. He will rip your ass in half and make you eat it. Okay? He is Wolverine. And I'm sorry, but anyone who says differently can go fuck themselves. Okay? Hugh Jackman is and always will be Wolverine. Now, really for the downside of this casting is Halle Berry as Storm. I don't hate her. I have nothing against her. Except for Catwoman, but I'm not going to get into that. She's not a good actress. Especially in this movie, she comes off, she's just bland, really. And the fact that she's trying to do an African accent doesn't help. If anything, it really hurts her. She's good to look at. She really is. And in the comics, Storm is gorgeous. As a matter of fact, when she still lived in Africa, in her first appearance, she was worshipped in Africa as a storm goddess. People gave her gifts and tributes in order to have good crops, and she did that. Granted, it was a con because she knew technically, in the comics, she was basically being a con artist in a way by pretending to be a goddess, which is great. If you read Giant Size X-Men #1, her introduction is great. It's really great. She's wearing nothing. Although they cover it, but anyway. But yeah, you could have picked someone better. As a matter of fact, Angela Bassett was originally considered for Storm. She was. She would have been perfect. Hell, today, I'm pretty sure I could have picked... could have picked someone else, even some other actress today to play Storm. Honestly, would have been a better choice than Halle Berry. But I understand why they're keeping her on now is because everyone knows she's Storm. Shawn Ashmore as Iceman, granted, it was more of a cameo, but the fact that they actually put Iceman in here instead of Gambit was nice, because I like Gambit, but I do think Iceman is I want to say the better character, but to me he's like the better person for Rogue in a way, and I guess that's just because I was introduced to Iceman through the movies. But yeah, and Shawn Ashmore does a really good job as Iceman, and again, especially in the later comics, does a good job on it. That's all I gotta say about that. The set design is really good. The fact that they were able to make it futuristic while still very much grounded is good. I like that. Because even in today's world, that shit exists. That technology exists today. So there is no problems with that. There is no feeling out of place with the technology on that. Although I do have to say one thing. This is more like a nerdy nitpick. when Mystique infiltrates the X Mansion, she walks over down the hall to access Cerebro, and she shapeshifts her eyes to match Xavier's. You would think Xavier would have had built-in safety protocols in order for anyone but him to get in, or anyone who is an X-Man to get in. But no. But no. Mystique is able to get in, and of course the powers is she can shapeshift her body down to the cellular level. Now, I'm no scientist, but I'm pretty sure that doesn't count for DNA. Still, when you also know that one of your enemies' henchmen is a shapeshifter, you would think you would build precautions in order to keep that from happening. But yeah, that's just a nitpick. But yeah, I love this movie. Has some of the special effects aged well? No, but I'd still recommend watching it. It's still a damn good movie, especially in today's world. And this is definitely the movie that helped kick off the comic book age. And yeah, I know people say, now Blade is the movie that helped people realize that comic book movies can be taken seriously, like damn seriously. X-Men is what helped start the comic book boom, though, the golden age of comic book movies, as I like to call it. I mean, yeah, we had Superman and Batman, but those were the only ones we had, despite a few failures. So yeah, that's pretty much all I gotta say. For X-Men, I give X-Men an 8 out of 10. It's still a damn good movie. It hasn't exactly aged well, but that's not really saying much about this movie. Bryan Singer did a damn good job of this film. I still love it even today. I would recommend it for anyone who hasn't seen it. I would recommend it showing it to your kids if they haven't seen it. Okay? So I will be back next time for X-Men 2. Until then, bye.